Today, inshallah, we will continue the third talk on resolving conflicts and building relationships. Last time we started the first step in resolving conflicts was to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us, to guide us, to give us wisdom and steadfastness to the truth, to seek Allah's help from those to seek also help from those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the knowledge to help us in the conflict. And the purpose of seeking help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is really to give us courage, because as we mentioned last time and the earlier talk before Ramadan, we were saying that most of the times people don't positively confront conflicts is because of fear. I mentioned a few types of fears. So in order for us to overcome the fears, we need to get the courage. We need to have that courage, and this courage comes from the support of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The knowledge, the guidance, all of that gives us more support, gives us more conviction and drive, and empower us to continue with the journey of resolving the conflict. So why do we need the courage to seek? Why do we need the courage and wisdom to seek from Allah? Why is that important? When they asked people who are in conflicts, what does conflict mean to you? Different people gave different answers. Actually, there are thousands of answers on that. Some people described it as a hurricane. Having a conflict with a person was like a hurricane. Having a conflict with the parent, alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah. Having conflict with the wife, with the husband, with the children. Other people, they described it as a volcano. Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah. Other people, they described it like as if they are walking barefoot on broken shards of glass. Others, they described it as trying to hold back the tsunami with a stick or with a broom. Others described the conflict or being in a conflict as if they were in war. And if there is war, there is booty. If there is war, there is something to fight for. Others compared it as walking barefoot on burning charcoal, burning coal. Others described conflict as the plague. Everybody's running away from it. They don't want to deal with it. So what does conflict mean to you? When you face a conflict with another person, what does that mean to you? How do you describe a conflict? Anybody wants to volunteer? Yes? Disagreement. But what is it like? The experiencing a conflict as if I am experiencing. What would it mean to you? Oh, that's a motorbike. I'm sorry? Horrible. Going through a horrible experience. What is like? So these people described it as volcano, as hurricane. How can you stand against a hurricane? How can you stand against a volcano? It's burning hot. You don't want to touch a volcano. You just run away from it. You run away from plague. Everybody's running away from all these things. Who wants to walk through or walk on a broken shreds of glass? So what does conflict mean to you? What's so uncomfortable to you about conflict?
Don't always have control of it.
You don't have control, right? And going through it is like going through what to you?
You're washed away. You don't
Washed away with the waves. Keeps coming. And you're trying to push them back and they keep coming. Overwhelming. It's frustrating. Yes. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, doctor. It becomes very frustrating. If it's a plague, you need to run away. You don't want to touch anybody who has the conflict. You don't want to even near it so it doesn't become on you, so you don't get contagious.
And I suppose this is a lack of power, right? You don't have any ability or power to do anything.
Right, you feel helpless. Absolutely. And that feeling to many people is not comfortable. Right. So if you see conflict as a plague, you would want to avoid it and anybody who has it. Well, here's the thing. It is normal to feel that way. Unless you are equipped with the right tools and the right protection, it is okay to feel this way. And this is why I gave these talks, and I take my time in the talks. I give small pieces every talk, but the puzzle is quite big, but there's a lot of things to build these skills with. And I try to share some of the skills that we need in resolving conflicts and in building relationships. So it is okay to feel that you need to run away. It's okay to have that fear. It is okay to feel yet you are uncomfortable or not comfortable to deal with the conflict. That's totally normal. But it's not going to help the conflict. It is not going to help the relationship. There's something has to be done to stop the conflict or to resolve the conflict. It's okay to feel frustrated, to feel helpless, because you don't know how. Because many times when we establish any relationship, whether marriage, whether friendship, whether it's business partnership, whatever the relationship is, whatever it is, it always starts with what? It starts with a wonderful vision. I met my best friend for the rest of my life today. It's this wonderful vision that you have for the rest of your life. Oh, I met my soulmate. We married, and just the vision is there. And there's always in a relationship there has to be, unless it's an internal conflict. We talked about there is a need for internal conflict resolution, but that's not the scope of today's talk. But it is a requirement. This is one of the skills or one of the requirements that you need to have. Internal conflicts need to be resolved before you are successful in external conflicts. Before being successful in resolving external conflicts. So you have this wonderful vision of you and the other person that you have this relationship with, and you're like aiming to fulfill that perfect marriage or wonderful children, and your children end up being disobeying you, and then the vision is like broken all over the place. So it starts with this wonderful vision, and there's another person. So this person is a wonderful person. Whether it, again, friend, son, when you have a baby, imagining your baby is like taking care of you when you're older. When he's an adult, you're a respected father to him. But at the teenage years, he's being very disrespectful. So that image that you always had about your child taking care of you, being respectful, taking care of your wife, shattered all over the place. Conflict. So it starts with this wonderful vision, and it's accompanied with passion. And you're going along through your journey, and somewhere in the future a conflict happens. So you have a wonderful person with passion, just like yours. And as the relationship grows and as time goes by, conflict happens. Now conflicts, as we mentioned before, Walaikum Assalam wa rahmatullah. Conflicts, as we mentioned before, we talked about, is that it happens for many reasons. Expectations, different visions, and all that stuff. There's so many different ways that could cause a conflict. So what we were told to how to handle conflicts or how to deal with conflicts is to communicate. Right? They say if you have a conflict with your wife, talk. But why is it that when people talk in conflict, the conflict gets worse? It's very, very common. It's like, well, we cannot talk anymore. We tried talking, it's not working. It's getting worse. There's something wrong there. There's a skill that needs to be built about communication. It's not just about communicating, how we communicate. What do we talk about? Another thing that we were told in how to deal with conflict, do not go to bed angry. So what happens because of that? We end up staying all night, and at the end of the night we're angry and tired. We're not just angry, but angry and tired because we're still not able to let go of that conflict. We're not able to resolve that conflict. Not about letting go. It's not about letting go. It's about resolving it. And another thing that we were taught to deal with conflicts is to compromise. And when you compromise in a conflict, both sides of the conflict, yes, yeah, both sides of the conflict, they will have mutual misery because it's not resolved. There's some area that they cannot touch, and that area can grow and then becomes lesser interactions, and so compromise also doesn't work. So they tell you need to learn how to communicate. You need to learn how to to go to bed not angry. Don't go to bed don't go to bed angry. And they tell you, you need to learn how to compromise. Compromise is a very, very evil word, I think. I think we are human. We don't compromise. We talk. We understand. We open to one another, and that's how we resolve conflicts. It's not about compromising. So today we're going to be focusing about the first step, which is about seeking courage. Seeking courage, seeking help, seeking guidance, seeking support from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Knowledge. We need knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does Allah tell us in the Quran about conflicts and resoluting conflicts? Before that, I mentioned last session about the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. He said that our actions, our deeds, they don't. Okay, so our deeds go to the heavens. The gates of heavens open on Mondays and Thursdays, and our deeds get to ascend to the heavens. Right? Unless two people are in conflict. So Allah says, subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, for those two people, hold their actions. Don't let them go to heaven until they resolve the conflict, until they reconcile. And I mentioned last time is the conflict is an opportunity for what? Some people, I say, what's conflict? They say dispute. They say, and I can say the same thing here. I would probably get the similar answers. Conflict is difference of opinions, struggle, disagreements. All of these are considered conflicts. But I would like us to think of conflicts differently. Conflicts is an opportunity to reconcile. Conflicts will happen. The issue is not about the conflict. The issue is how we resolve it. What do we need to do to resolve it? So therefore, we have to resolve it. Otherwise, our salah is not going to the heavens. This is Mondays and Thursdays. If you're fasting Mondays and Thursdays, if you have a conflict with another person, your actions are not going to the heavens. They're held back. It's very serious. It's very, very serious matter. So if this is not going to drive us to put this as a priority in our lives, I don't know what would. You did Hajj last year, you fasted Ramadan just recently, well, guess what? If you have a conflict with someone, your actions are still here. They haven't gone to the heavens. You've been doing fasting for the last 10 years, same thing. You need to resolve the conflict. So what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell us about dealing with conflicts? We said, we mentioned the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, the consequences of not resolving the conflict. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Fussilat, وَلَا تَسْتَوِي الْحَسَنَةُ وَلَا السَّيِّئَةُ ادْفَعْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ فَإِذَا الَّذِي بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَهُ عَدَاوَةٌ كَأَنَّهُ وَلِيٌّ حَمِيمٌ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, hasana, good deed. Hasana, by the way, is a feminine for hasan. Hasana means good. Hasana means good. So a person who is a male who's good, we say he is hasan. He is a good man. And if she is good, she's a good person. إنها امرأة حسنة. She's say a lady who is حسنة. But here we're talking about good deed. So deed is a feminine word. So عمل صالح أو حسنة, it refers to the good deed. And سيئة is a bad deed. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us good deed and bad deed are not the same. Good deed and bad deed are not the same. Hasana is not the same as Sayyah. Which is better? Hasana. Hasana is much better than Sayyah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is defining that. He's putting that as a foundation. One of us might think like, okay, so that's what's new. We know that. We know Hasana is better than Sayyah. Then we continue. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, idfa' billati hiya ahsan. Repel with the better one. Repel evil with the better one. Repel evil with the better one. Which one is the better one? Hasana. Hasana is better. So repel evil is better than repel evil with the better one, which is Hasana. Hasana is virtues. Good deeds is virtues. And not to commit sins in order for us to repel evil. We need to repel it with good deeds. We don't want to repel it with sins. And when we do that, then that person that we have a conflict with become like as if a devoted friend. If we do that, so that's the strategy. If you think of it, that's a strategy. These are not steps. This is a strategy. The strategy is to repel evil. Not talking to your friend, brother, sister, wife, mother, father, son, daughter. Is that a good deed or a bad deed? You're allowed for 3 days. After 3 days, it's a sin. If you boycott your brother or sister or father or mother, it doesn't matter what it is. But I don't know who would ever boycott their parents. I would like to talk to that person. I would really like to talk to that person if they are boycotting and not talking to their parents. Yes. I will get to that. Yes, I will definitely, because that was we closed last session on that question, and I will make more details and specifications on that, inshallah. So I boycott my son, not talking to him. I have only 3 days. After 3 days, if I still not talking to him or boycotting him, it's a sin. This is about the conflict, right? I'm not boycotting him because he's committing a sin. I'm boycotting him because there's a conflict between him and I last night. I only have 3 nights not to talk to him. After that, it has to be resolved. So we have 3 days to resolve it. Thursday, we have Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Monday, it needs to be resolved. Because we don't want to skip, we don't want to skip the cycle of ascending our actions to the heavens. Because if I have a conflict, then the key is between us. If I have a conflict with you, then the key is between us to open the gates for heaven, for both of our actions to go to heaven. Not just my actions, also your actions. We are in it together. So therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us what is better. Better is to do the good deed in the conflict. Why is this verse is talking about conflict? Because it is saying as if you are the person whom you and him have enmity, animosity, friction. You want to call it whatever you want to call it. Disagreement, fight, whatever you want to call it. If you have that with that person, then if you follow this as if that person is your devoted friend, is your most beloved friend. Any questions on this one specifically? Because we're going to dissect this a bit deeper. Okay, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us the definition. What is a good deed? The virtues, the good deeds, the good virtues, and then the bad deeds are the sins. So when we resolve the conflict, we want to only do good deeds. Because the goal is to get that reward at the end. To make that person as if he's my best devoted friend. Now, if I'm in a conflict with another person, this is an external conflict we're talking about, then let's take the possibilities with me and the other person. The possibilities of that conflict, it's either both of us with enmity. Both of us have animosity against each other, enmity, disagreements. We both don't like each other because of that conflict. That's one possibility. The other possibility is that I have enmity, but he forgave me. I am not clear. In my chest is still not clear. In my heart, in my body, I'm still nervous. I'm still aggravated for what he did or what she did. That's another possibility. The third possibility, the other person has enmity. I'm clear. I forgave that person. I forgave you. Nothing in my heart. But the other person is still holding enmity. He's still upset with me. That's the third possibility. Now the fourth possibility is both forgive. Both are forgiven. So we have two people, four combinations. So which of these combinations are we accountable for to make sure that we resolve it? So this, the last one, both forgiving, this is done. There's no need to, there's no conflict there. But between these three, both with enmity, I have enmity or versus the other person has enmity. Which one I am responsible to make sure it is resolved for me? Which one? The first two. Okay? Anybody wants to volunteer to answer? Which ones I am responsible? So I'm part of this conflict, right? Which one I am responsible to fix the conflict? Which ones? 1 and 2, all, I'm hearing all. Both forgiven is out. So which one of the three? The three. Okay. Any other answers? I'm sorry? The first two. Any other answers? We have three. We have three. So we have 9 combinations. Would that make sense? So what combinations do we need to have in order to say that I'm responsible for it? If I did that, then I am clear. My deeds will go to the heavens on Mondays and Thursdays. Which ones do I need to make sure I do? So I heard 3, all of them, and I heard 1 and 2. Okay. Any other volunteers? How many people agree with the first one? You need to do all 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that your hand? Okay. How many people say 1 and 2? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 7. Okay, mashallah. How many people are not sure or don't know? I love it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wonderful. That's good. I mean, it's really good to say, I don't know. We are all learning. It's all absolutely okay. And it's absolutely okay to make ijtihad because, you're making ijtihad in front of the person who is giving you the knowledge. So if you make a mistake, I'll correct you. So this is a very, very safe environment to make mistakes. So it is okay to make mistakes here. So because I am providing this information to you, and by all means, you can go and check this information afterwards, and you can always challenge me on this information. More than happy to discuss this further. So, okay, so I'm a big favor of the 3. You need to do all 3. And there's a good reason for that. The reason is because the Prophet ﷺ, he said in the Hadith Qudsi, that's a Hadith Qudsi, when he says that the actions or the deeds are, ascended to the heavens on Mondays and Thursdays, and then he said, no, you hold back the actions of these 2 because there is conflict between them. There is still shahna between them. He didn't say one of them has shahna. He said there's still shahna between them. So it could be one, it could be both. And he didn't specify that both of them have shahna. And he didn't say, oh, only the one who doesn't have shahna send the deeds to the heavens. He said both of them have shahna between them. He didn't give ownership of shahna. Shahna is dispute. Shahna is dislike. Shahna is conflict, friction, animosity, enmity. You can name it whatever. It's all in Arabic. It's called shahna. That's how the hadith said it. So it's either I have shahna, you have shahna, or both of us have the shahna. We both have the conflict. We both don't like this. We don't like each other because of this conflict. So therefore, if both or either one have, they call it, I heard it as the aftertaste. Even though the conflict is resolved, quote unquote, there's an aftertaste. A bitterness in the mouth, I don't know why they feel it. Maybe it's in the heart, still in the chest. Every time you see the person, every time you remember that incident, just your blood gushes through your whole body. It's like, oh, astaghfirullah. That's still not clear in your heart. It's still not clear. We need to work on that. That's where we need to work on. So when we talked about the three. So we need to make sure that if we are in any of the three situations, we own it. Each one of us has the responsibility to clear it from the other side, to clear it within themselves. Well, first they clear it within themselves first, and then they reach out to get forgiveness from the other person. We'll talk about that shortly, inshallah. Now I want to talk quickly about the forgiveness. They both forgive. Now, there are conditions, or I say it as requirements in order for it to be considered as forgiven. It needs to be unconditional forgiveness. It needs to be complete, not partial. Oh, I forgive you on this and this, but that one I will never forgive you on that one. I will never forgive you for what you did, but I'll forgive those other ones, other incidents, but this one, no way. That's not considered to be forgiven. Like you take your friend's car and you wreck it, right? And you pay for half of it. And you say, oh, I forgive you for wrecking it, but I will never forgive you for not paying for it. You paid half of it. I will never forgive you for that. But it's the same conflict. It's about the car. You wrecked the car. You had an accident in the car and you ruined your friend's car. So it's not complete. It needs to be complete. It needs to be unconditional forgiveness. If you do this and do that, I will forgive you. That's conditional forgiveness. Because if they undid it, then you're not forgiving them anymore. So that's not considered to be forgiving. We'll give more examples on that. And also, it's not time-based. It's forever. You forgive that person forever. No matter how long you live together or how long they are around you, how many times you remember it, you're forgiving it. It's nothing to bring up. It's all gone. It's just like, poof, it's just disappeared. It's gone. From the heart, from the mind, from the throat, from the taste, anything, nothing is there. You will get to that level. I mean, that's why we need to learn how to resolve the conflicts. Because there will be no aftertaste. There will be no aftertaste. There will be no heart feelings or bad memories. You will always remember it as something positive instead of it as being a conflict. Any questions or comments so far? Yeah, yes, brother. Do we have a microphone? I can barely hear him. Sorry. Just 1 second, bro.
Assalamualaikum.
Alaikum salam.
No, just check on this. Let's say the two people have forgiven each other, and then you will see that the action of the one party, how they are reacting towards them after the conflict resolution, after the whatever your forgiveness.
Well, that's what I call quote-unquote resolutions, and then it's not resolved yet. If there is still behavior from the other person because of what happened, they're still not resolved.
Yeah, so
you still have responsibility to clear that.
It has to be both parties has to have the same mentality to think.
Not same mentality. You need to consider it as something from the past, and both of you are okay with it, and you understand each other's positions, and you forgive each other. If he asks you, well, we'll talk more about that. If, for example, he feels or she feels that they still have something inside them because they're expecting something from you haven't done. Okay? They feel that you misjudged them. There's a part that you guys haven't discussed. things that are still not clear, haven't been cleared. The big conflict is, but you see, here's an example. If the husband and wife had an argument about, let's pick something just arbitrary. Who's gonna wash the dishes tonight? Let's just assume that this is the conflict. It's not about the dishes, believe me, it's not about the dishes. They're not arguing about the dishes. I can almost guarantee you that they're not arguing about the dishes. So it's not the dishes. So because if somebody went and fixed, one of them went and did the dishes, next day will be an argument about something else. Because there's something behind that dishes issue. Something laying down that they're not talking about. So they can resolve the dishes. Okay, fine. I'll do the dishes tonight, whatever. I'll cook tonight. I'll drive the kids to school. But it's not that. There's always something underneath it. Because you're touching the surface. You're fixing the surface. You need to look at what is behind this behavior. This behavior is coming from maybe, or this conflict or this issue is coming because of your behavior about something in the past, or about something that you guys never discussed, or something that you've discussed but it wasn't safe for the other person to bring it up again. So they are zipping about it. They're not talking about it. They don't feel comfortable coming and talk to you about it because when they spoke to you about it last time, you threw a fit. You made a scene. You embarrassed them. You yelled. You screamed. You hit. You did whatever the case might be. So therefore, if you do that behavior again, they will not address that issue. Their discomfort with the conflict will show in their behavior in something else. Does that make sense? You want me to repeat that in a different way?
No, what I want to ask is, let's say if there is an external forces influencing that person to do the job,
then you need to address with that person the influences of the external forces and how the external forces are contributing to the health of the relationship.
Yeah,
and how they're affecting that.
Provided the person is believe that it is an external forces is doing it. But if that person doesn't believe in that, it's only that it's happening because of some external forces. Maybe some shaitanic effect. Somebody has in Malaysia. There's a lot
it's
of
a lot of possibilities.
So how do we overcome that part of it?
There's a lot of possibilities. There are a lot of possibilities, but it's only from our perspective. We don't know the other perspective. Because that kind of behavior, it's my perception that it's caused by the third party. It's an assumption. It could be an assumption. You don't know that for sure unless that other person told you, I told that person such and such. How many times I've heard, oh, his mom is ruining our marriage. Or her mom is ruining our marriage. Why do you say that? Oh, I feel it. I know she is. Or his uncle, or his father. I mean, I've seen that. Or his father, or her mom. You hear all this, but when you really dig down and ask the specifics, I'm doing counseling right now. I'm doing coaching. I talk to people, and it's not just married people. I talk to children, and I talk to Muslims and non-Muslims. So it's really broad. It's not just one area I'm telling you about. I'm talking about in general. When it comes down to it, it's based on assumptions. But that's why I say these kind of things, if they're still there, then it's a resolved conflict, quote unquote. Partially resolved. It's not resolved. So we're still in step number 1. This is about 8 steps process. So we're still in step 1, number 1, we seeking carriage, and I just want to put in everybody's head why seeking carriage is important, because I want you to visualize the journey throughout. This conflict resolution is not going to be pretty. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be a walk in the park, as they say. It's not. It's going to be rocky. It's going to be difficult. You're probably going to be alone if you choose to fix it alone. It'll take time, but you need to be committed to resolve that conflict. Why? Why do we need to have such a high commitment? Why the commitment is very important in resolving conflict? Because my deeds are not ascending on Mondays and Thursdays if there is a conflict. It's very serious. It's very serious. My deeds, my fasting, my repentance. I didn't pray for all my life. I just repented 10 years ago. Since I repented until now, I don't have my actions went to the heavens because I have a conflict with such and such. Oh, this is a problem. This is a serious problem. So therefore the commitment has to be at its max. You're going to be so committed to resolve this conflict to the level that commitment itself is going to feel jealous how committed you are. I mean, that's how committed you need to be. You're going to be committed that shaitan is like, you're leaving me no room here to work. I mean, shaitan is going to say, this is really difficult. You're too committed for this to fix it. Because shaitan is between the two, husband and wife. Shaitan sees as conflict as what? Opportunity for divorce. We see it as opportunity for reconcile. Shaitan sees a relationship, whether it's marriage or not, as an opportunity for conflict. And he sees the conflict as an opportunity for a break, for breaking apart that relationship, that love for the sake of Allah, that friendship, that brotherhood, that sisterhood, that marriage, that whatever it is that we have that relationship with. Shaitan will always be there. And Iblis knows about Islam, knows about right, and knows about wrong, and knows about how we think, and he come and tell you, he become your sheikh. He become the sheikh. He's giving you fatwas that nobody ever gave you. It's like, but it's actually fatwa, but it's twisted. Oh, you're the man of the house. How do you let your wife talk to you like that? Are you the man of the house? Yes. Islamically, yes. You're the man of the house. You're responsible. And these whispering coming, and it's just like, it's not at the right time. It's influencing you in a bad way. So going back to the question you were asking, if there is an external party, then if it's for sure, if it's confirmed, then the external party needs to be part of the conflict. Then you have a conflict not with two people, but with three people. You, the other person, and the third party. That has to be part of the conflict resolution. So that's how you would need to address that. If the mother of the spouse is causing the problems, then you need to take the steps. Resolve internal conflicts, resolve conflicts with I said the social circles that we have. We are the first social circle. The second social circle can be our parents, can be our wife, can be our spouse, and generally speaking. And then the children, then the relatives, then the neighborhood, friends, whatever comes, whatever you decide to be closest to you. But you need to start in that order. You fix yourself, internal conflicts resolved, then you go to the second circle. Your wife. If there's a third party that is outside the circle, outside the second circle, you need to bring him in. They are part of that conflict. They need to be brought in as part of the conflict resolution. But you start with the wife, or you start with the husband, you start with the spouse, and then you go to the third party and bring him in, because it's step by step. Because you're actually building relationship. Because conflicts cause what? Friction in relationship, and they can also break it. How many times have you seen a block in your neighborhood that was empty when you went home from work? You went home and you see the block around the corner of the street when you by your home is empty. When you go to work next day in the morning, you see a big building. Overnight, there was this big building. How many times have we seen that? Never. Never. Building takes time, takes effort, takes commitment, takes focus. You are building the relationship because the relation has a conflict. If it's conflict, then it's friction. Maybe it's not even there. The relationship not even there, but you need to build it. Also, how many times have you seen one person building a building? It takes forever. If the building takes 6 months, it'll take probably 60 years. So it's good to ask people within your circle or within the other person's circle to help, to reconcile. because you are building relationship. How important that relationship is, it reflects how committed you are. It reflects how open you are and how willing you are how far you're willing to go to show that commitment and to resolve the conflict. So if you resolve it in one circle and it's still happening, then you need to go look what's causing that to happen, and you need to resolve it. You need to resolve it. Okay? Did that kind of address your question, your situation? Sort of, right? But there are always specifics to every situation, and I'm talking here in general. In general. Specifics, you can talk to me after the talk, and maybe I can give you some hints, but I need to know a lot for me to be able to help in one direction or the other. Again, this is step one. We are understanding why we need to seek the knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the knowledge we were told, compromise, it's not going to work. You might compromise, you're happy today. 5 years from now, I've had enough of compromising. I mean, I'm losing myself. I feel like I'm being abused in this relationship because I changed. I forgot who I was. How many times we heard that? People get in a relationship, they eat it in, they take it in, they take it in. And then at the end, like 5 years, and they just snap. Like, I've had it. But they could have addressed it 5 years ago or 4 years ago when it was manageable. They can still tolerate. So compromise is not an answer. But we were taught, we grew up in families or friends who told us that you need to compromise. You need to be smart. How many times we heard that? You need to be smart. When you have a conflict with someone, you need to be political. You need to be a political. No, you can be political, but resolving the issue. Not just political and just getting your way around it. You need to address it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us strategy. The strategy is that we need to repel evil. We need to repel the conflict. We need to repel the divorce. We need to repel the separation. Whatever the case might be, we need to repel it with the better one. Which one is the better one? Which one is the better one? Hasana. Good deed. So this will give us focus in our strategy. So when we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we ask Him steadfastness on the truth, because we want good deeds in this resolution. We don't want to trick them. We don't want to make them believe that we're right. It's not about who's right or who's wrong. None of that. We want to be truthful. We want to be sincere. We want this resolution to be for the sake of Allah, pure, built on truth, and it's done. I mean, it's resolved, fully resolved. So therefore, it needs to be based on good deeds. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us special reward number one is that enmity and animosity will be removed. The friction will be gone when we are doing it this way. Because we are being truthful to ourselves. We expect the truth. We are seeking the truth. We're not seeking to judge. You did, I'm better, you're better. None of that. It's just about facts and resolving the issue. And reward number two is best friend. So I'm going to go back to this one. The other has enmity. And let's say that it's me and this young man. Can I use you as an example? Yeah? Just no. Can I use as an example just to point at you? You're not going to say anything. Is it okay? Okay, great. Wonderful. I didn't see your hand. So I'm going to say this young man, he's my son, assuming, and he's upset with me, and I forgave him. I said, I forgive you. But he's upset with me. I said, no, I don't forgive you. He's like, what do you mean you're going to forgive me? I'm your father. I'm older than you. Have respect for me. Like, no, I don't forgive you. And he's upset with me, and he doesn't talk to me. Look at him. He's smiling. He's a very beautiful child. Beautiful smile, mashallah. And he's like, no, I'm not going to forgive you. And then I was like, either you forgive me, I want to put you in timeout. Then I'm making him to forgive me. I'm using my power. So next time he's gonna express to me that he doesn't forgive me. He doesn't like what I did. He's not. He's gonna be scared. He doesn't want to be in timeout. He doesn't want to be in consequence. He agrees with me. He's smiling. Good. So he won't come to me and tell me, oh, I don't forgive you. but because he's scared of me. But inside him, he has something inside him. And he's going to grow up with that something inside him, that he is not talking to his father. His father is causing him a lot of stress at young age. Believe me, children have stress. Don't use that against your parents, guys, okay? So, but I'm telling you, as parents, as brothers, older brothers or older sisters, you need to know your young ones in the house, they go have stress. Oh, what are they going to be stressed about? Believe me, they have their own stressors. They just need to know how to deal with the stress. So if you're causing that stress to them, you need to resolve that stress. If they have that inside them and they are not talking to you because of how you behaved, believe it or not, even though you forgive them and you love them and all that, believe it or not, there's a conflict and your actions will be held back. It is a serious, serious matter. And that child is going to grow up with the issues of trusting other people because of how you dealt with that issue and how you forced your child to forgive you. For example, I'm just saying that as an example. Most of the problems we see with adults is because of how they grew up. Child development is very, very important. Child development, number one, the school for child development is number one is the house, is the parents. They need to be providing the children a safe environment to teach them. The child doesn't know. I mean, he's 5 years old. You would expect him to know how to deal with stress. You're being, very, very unrealistic, to be honest. So the same thing if it's an adult. If you have a conflict with another adult, you would expect the other person to know what's in your heart, to know what you want. Oh, he knows what I want. It's like, how do you know? How do you know the other person what he wants? So he's not giving it to me. I asked him so many times to do this, and he forgot. Maybe he doesn't know that this is the same as the other time. He said there's a lot of assumptions. So, I missed that. Okay. So, if I'm an adult, doesn't mean that the younger person would need to, forgive me. I would expect to take that for granted. It doesn't mean that. Doesn't mean because I have a higher status, then I would expect the younger person or the person who has a lesser status in the family, because I'm the older brother, I'm the older sister, I'm the older spouse, I'm the grandfather, you respect me? No. The Prophet ﷺ showed us examples and examples of that. The Prophet ﷺ, he gave his hand to a child just to walk him around Medina to show him where the things that she was looking for. She just took his hand. I mean, he's the head of state. Try to do that with any of the head states in the whole world, to have a child just to drag him. Security guards will take that child and take the family of that child in exile. They would take him outside the country. That wouldn't happen. So the examples of the Prophet ﷺ shows us the leadership. And as a parent, as an older person, that's where you show your leadership and how to deal with someone who is following you. So you would say in your mind, oh, he's younger. I'm the older person. How could an older person say you're sorry to the small person? He needs to say sorry. I don't have to say anything. I'll just go along without saying anything. What about if the other way around? My younger brother, for example. My younger brother says, I forgive you. And I say, I don't forgive you. I'm still upset with you. It's like, what? I'm, the younger you're the older one. You're the wiser one. You should know better. You're the one who's giving me an example to follow. You don't forgive me? I mean, who am I going to follow? Am I going to be like you when I grow up? Imagine the father does that to the son. And I tell him, no, I don't forgive you. It's like, but father, I'll try. No, I don't forgive you. And the son is going to end up like, well, I just need to be like my father. I don't need to forgive anybody. So regardless of who is right and who is wrong, regardless of the age difference, regardless of the situations, regardless of the status, if somebody is not forgiving, you need to address that. If somebody has still issue with the conflict, you need to resolve that. And questions like, what would it take for you to forgive me. I had that when I grew up. My father would say something like, "You put a kiss right here, I'll forgive you." Something cute, something fun. But he would say something like, "Oh, I don't forgive." It's like, "Oh, what do I need to do?" Like, just put a kiss right here and I'll forgive you. I was like, "Okay," so I'll kiss him. So it's just something to show, compassion, affectionate. But you can play like that. But you don't just be serious. You don't forget. You put the kid in timeout, and so many people have a misunderstanding or misuse of timeout. Timeout doesn't mean isolation. Please, if you put your child in timeout, does not mean isolate him. He can be in timeout in the same place wherever he is. He's in timeout. He just stays there, and it's limited. It's not forever. He needs to go to the bathroom. Remember. He's a human being. He has a smaller bladder than we do. If your child is in timeout, don't put him in isolation. Don't make it a painful experience. And, be reasonable. The idea of timeouts, when you have a conflict with the child, to discipline him, you need to have, the objective is to teach him, not to harm him. Same thing, when you're growing in a relationship, with someone else, you need to collaborate to learn how to build that relationship together. It's not about I'm right and you're right, or who's right or who's wrong. Sorry, when the child behaves or doesn't listen, there's a terminology used in the West that you put the child in timeout, meaning that it's a type of punishment that where the child sits, doesn't do anything at a certain place, and he is not, allowed to do anything. He just sits there for about 5-10 minutes for him to reflect. And the idea is for them to reflect on what they did. Jazakallah khair for asking. I took it for granted that was understood. I'm sorry? Look at the wall. Yeah, I don't encourage it, but yeah, you can do that. You can do that if you want. And the timeout usually changes as they grow. As they mentally grow, you need to also adjust the timeout. You cannot, have a teenager, put him in timeout to sit down. Timeouts for teenagers is also allowed and it's also encouraged, but it's different. Okay? Curfews really work really good with teenagers. You put them stay at home, no friends. But again, for a very reasonable time. You can't say for a year or 10 years, and it's just like it's gonna be counterproductive. So it's good to resolve the conflict from your side and use it as an opportunity to teach the other person about how you contribute to the relationship, or how they contribute to the relationship. All right? Any questions or answers on that, or comments? Yes, brother.
So you said about, if someone says they forgive you, you should say, oh, I was forgive you. What if you think, oh, that person's not being sincere? I don't think they're really sorry. They're just saying it just to.
Yeah, I would ask, what makes you say that?
So if you feel, they only said sorry, because they want to, if someone said, go say sorry to this person, whatever. So if you doubt that they're actually sorry for what they did, like they do it again.
They did the same thing again. So doing it again, does that mean that they were not sincere about it the first time? Is it always the case, or there are exceptions, or any other reasons why it happened again? Okay, so here's what I'm going with that. People do things based on habits. They're not doing it to piss you off. They're not doing things to piss me off. If my neighbor is used to park his car a certain way I don't like, and I go talk to him, it's like, when you park your car like this, it's really blocking my driveway, Can you move your car a little bit? And then he goes again and he does it. Same thing. I go talk to him. He has a habit of when he parks the car, maybe he doesn't look around. I don't know, whatever the case might be. So you're asking him to change a habit, and you're expecting him to change that habit immediately. So you need to help him in the habit. I mean, if that is the case, I really don't know the specifics. Again, this is one possibility. Another possibility, the person forgets. Or maybe he didn't understand what you were talking about in the first problem. Maybe it wasn't clear. Maybe there's an underlying issue that he is still trying to piss you off, because you're not getting deeper to the real issue that he wants you. Like I said about, washing dishes. It's not about the dishes. It's something laying underneath the surface issue. So you need to really talk to the person, open up. So how do we talk to them? Did that kind of give you an answer? Yeah. So there could be other things. It doesn't mean that's the only thing. That maybe is that may be a contribution, but it's not the only contribution. Or, yes. Questioning sincerity.
Yeah, so you say something, you said, okay, immediately I question the sincerity of your saying that you forgot.
Okay. Okay, then that would be something internal for you. I mean, if you say, I'm sorry, and I'm questioning your sincerity, that's me. I am questioning your sincerity. So it's within me. I need to fix that. Maybe I'm questioning the sincerity of all the people that are nice to me. Then I have a bigger issue that I need to resolve internal conflicts with other people. So therefore, you need to resolve the internal conflicts. That's number one. I said, when you resolve conflicts, you start with the smaller or the smallest circle, yourself. You feel good. You feel like you're clear. You can forgive people. You're a good relationship. You don't judge. It's okay to judge, by the way. When we judge other people, I'll talk a little bit about that. But let me finish the thought. So you don't assume. You don't predict the other person's thoughts. You really know how to be comfortably open and transparent in a relationship to collaborate and build that relationship. Then you're good. You can go now resolve the conflict with the people that you have conflicts with. Now, my comment about, did that answer give you some kind of idea of the answer about sincerity?
What's the backdrop? The background is that we assume that people are being sincere, or we assume
No, we're supposed to take the person's view as value. Add value. We need to say, we don't want to question his sincerity, because that's dhann. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna ba'da al-dhanni ithm. Some of the assumptions are actually sins. So we need to be careful. So that's why we need to clear it within ourselves, how we see other people. Did that address it? So in terms of judgment, I said we don't want to be judgmental. It is okay to be judgmental. The idea is not about you're judging the other person. Judging the other person shows who you are, what values you stand for. What makes you angry is what values you're trying to defend. That's what angry is coming from when it comes with a conflict. You're trying to defend specific values, specific principles that are very, very important to you. It's not likely to the other person. They don't see it as important. Like, for example, I'm not from Malaysia. When I walk in between people, I don't put my hand. I don't do that. And I hope I'm not offending anybody. But to me, that's not a value. That's not a principle. But nobody came and talked to me about it, so I'm thinking it's okay. So if I did that in front of you, please get my attention. If I offended you by that, please let me know. Because if you don't let me know, I don't know. Okay? So to judge a person, it's good. It shows that you, for example, if I did that in front of you and he comes like, oh, this guy is a foreigner, huh? He doesn't know Malaysian standards. He doesn't put the hand when he walks around. So if that's bothering you, then it puts you in the circle of the yellow one. I have enmity against this guy. This Ammar is not putting, I don't like him because of that. Then you need to come forward to me as like, brother, you did this and it's very making me uncomfortable with you. I don't like you because of that. I say, astaghfirullah. May Allah forgive me and Allah forgive you. Thank you very much for letting me know. And please, this is a bad habit of me. Whenever I do it, please remind me. I will try my best to always put my hand. But I'm not promising here, because unless you tell me that's offensive, I will do it. But again, I'm just giving a real life example. I see people do it, but I really don't understand the wisdom behind it. I don't know the etiquette behind it. Nobody came and talked to me about it. So if it's offensive, let me know. I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to make anybody upset with me. But unless you tell me, then you have the enmity against me, and I don't. Then your actions are not going to on Mondays and Thursdays. I don't know about it, so I'm okay.
So what you're saying is that if I now judge
Yes.
for that,
Yes. If I upset you,
something about me rather than about what you judge.
Exactly. So that's why you need to fix it within yourself. Either you give me an excuse because I'm not Malaysian, and it's okay, he doesn't know, or you can make me aware that if it's really upsetting you, you're like you're my neighbor and you see me do that, and people talk behind my back. It's like, brother, these people are really upset with you.
So earlier when you said it's okay for me to judge,
it's okay for you to judge. That shows what you are, what values you have. But you have the choice to forgive. But it's okay to judge. People say, oh, don't be judging the others. No, it's okay to judge. That's who I am. But the problem with judging is this: holding on to the judgment. You're not listening to the explanation. Like saying, all people such and such with this such, they're all the same thing. But when you find out that they're not, it's like, no, they're all the same. It's like,
it's okay to judge, but again, strategy number one, replace the evil with the good, do something about it that will...
Yeah, do something about it, but listen to the other person. He might give you new information that would change your judgment. Now, don't hold on to the first judgment that you had. And had a grudge. I'm giving you new information now. You need to clarify the judgment. Oh, okay, because I thought I was doing... Like in America, I'm going to say it, and I don't know what's the consequence of saying it, but in America, the stereotype is that Chinese don't know how to drive. It's a very typical stereotype in the United States, especially in California. It's known. It's like a known thing. And even the Chinese people sometimes joke about it. It's like, I'm Chinese, I don't know how to drive. They don't know how to park or something like that. But I came here, like I see that I'm the only one who doesn't know how to drive. But I'm not talking about the rules and signals, that's a different story. But I'm talking about driving. I mean, everybody's driving well. But the stereotype, so now my judgment has to change, otherwise I'm biased. I'm stereotypical. Then my judgment is not accurate. But if I stick to it, it's not my judgment really. You see, my judgment is there because I value driving according to the law of the motor vehicle department, the Department of Motor Vehicle, whatever standards that they have. I value that. Anybody who doesn't drive like that, as good as that, then they don't know how to drive. That was my judgment based on that. But I never really had that judgment. But I'm saying the stereotype. People have that. And then you come here, you see the people driving very well. Then if I don't change my judgment, then what does that say about me? I'm judgmental. Not only that, I'm stubborn about my judgment. Even though I see the truth, I'm still not changing my view about it. Again, that's an example. I really never thought of Chinese not being, good drivers or anything, or Asian. Sorry, not Chinese, Asian. But it's not about the stereotype, but it's about the judgment. It's okay to judge because that shows what you value. But holding on to that judgment, regardless of what facts you get, that's the problem. That is the problem with judgment. So how do we go about moving forward? And that's why we seek Allah's help to give us steadfastness on the truth. Because when we judge something based on our values and based on our principles, we have these judgments. But when we get the truth, we need Allah's support to help us see, the new view, the new experience from a new angle to help us improve, to nourish the relationship, whomever that we're having that relationship with. So how do we do it? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us. So this is all in Surah Fussilat, verse number 34, 35, and I will talk about 36. Fussilat, what does Fussilat mean? The chapter Fussilat. It's written right here. Fussilat means it was explained in details. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the Quran explains things in details. So these are 3 verses that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us about conflict resolution. First, keep in mind, doing a good deed is better than doing a bad deed. The bad deed might be faster. Tricking, lying can be faster to get your result. to make you win the argument. Make up something. But is that a good deed? No, it's not a good deed. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, good deed is better than a bad deed. And then He says, repel with the better one. Repel evil. Repel whatever shakes that relationship with the better one. And we talked about the possibilities. Either the conflicts within you, within the other person, you need to reach out, you need to get that resolved. Not on the surface, but you really need to get down and dirty sometimes to get it resolved. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the last two rewards we talked about. Special reward number 1, removal of enmity, animosity, and having that person that you used to have conflicts with, you used to have the enmity with, he or she become your best friend. How many people can say, my spouse is my best friend? If you do, wonderful. Keep it. Maintain it. I talked about building the building, It doesn't happen overnight. It takes months, sometimes years, or maybe more than a year. At least more than a year. But some smaller buildings takes months to build. I saw with my own eyes a building was demolished in 3 days. 3 days to destroy a complete building with one person. Heavy machinery with a hammer and he just kept pounding the building. Over 3 days of pounding, the building was rubble. How long did it take to build that building? Maybe 6 months, 9 months. To rebuild that building took maybe a year, because they need to clean, they need to dig again, they need to bring it. So rebuilding takes more time than building. So when we build relationship, and that's why I always talk about the people, the youth who are going out and trying to get married, or they're trying to for their fiancé state, they really need to understand conflict resolutions, because they need to build that relationship in solid grounds and foundations that are based on truth, transparency, and many other values that we all cherish in our lives. So therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us the reward is that you will have the enmity and the animosity removed between you, and you will have the other person as becoming your best friend. Now, there is a condition to this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, you will get these two rewards if you are patient. You will get these two rewards. We will be granted these rewards, except those who are, those who will be granted these virtues or these results will be those whom are patient. And none is granted is except one having a great portion. So you will not be granted unless you have a great portion of luck, of goodness, or the luckiest person would be able to achieve or attain these results. So therefore, you have a very difficult journey. You have a very challenging journey. If you're going it alone, it's going to be more difficult. If you're seeking help within your external circles, friends, families, her friends, his friends, your friends, to come together to help you, help the other person to see things in different ways, that will make it easier. But throughout, you need to have patience, because it's very likely, or there's a high chance or a good chance that it will not work the first time around. After all the efforts you put, after all the commitments you put, it's still not working. Well, start again. You need to have patience. You need to have patience. I said commitments before, and now we're talking about commitment and patience. Patience until Satan himself give up on you. You know what I'm saying, Satan, when it comes to relationship? You know what I'm referring to? The Prophet ﷺ talks about shaitan. He will always try to put animosity and enmity between parents, between couples, until they are divorced. And that shaitan would go to Iblis. And he would say, I was there between them, causing them trouble and conflicts until they were divorced. Iblis would say, you come and sit right next to me. You are one of the best people, one of the best shaitans I ever had. That's why I always mention shaitan when it comes to relationship, because there is shaitan just trying to put this animosity and enmity between you and the other person. And they will use the most common sense reasons. They will not tell you, you need to go. You go and and say such and such. They will not say that. The whispers are not like that. The whispers come like, after all I've done, this is what I get. This is very common, by the way. After all the patience I've been through, after all the compromise I went through, this is how she or he is dealing with me. He doesn't understand that I have to do this or that I have to do that. Now this is how he's talking to me. I'll show him. Now then, so shaitan is like, so you deserve better than that. That's what shaitan is whispering. It's like, you deserve better than that. Why your husband or your spouse or your friend is not treating you with respect? He doesn't tell you what to do. He just emphasizes the obvious of what you see already, but he's just repeating. It's repeating in your head, repeating in your head. So you have the shaitan and you have the self. We talked about pride. If you missed it, please look at it and listen to it. It's on YouTube. We talked about the difference between dignity and pride. Shaitan will come from pride. It will not come from dignity. Because you can be humiliated with dignity. You can be in a position of humiliation, but dignified. But pride, you will not find a person in a humiliated situation. He will not humiliate himself because of pride. But a man or a woman with dignity, they wouldn't have a problem to be humiliated for a good cause. Okay, so therefore we need to have patience. So patience is very important. Patience is very important. Because if you are seeing a conflict as a war, then war in many different ways, actually in a very weird way, it's like a show of patience. Who's going to be patient more to take the head of the other person? So it'll be, there's also, I talked about the cycle of hurt. So the cycle of hurt goes like this. Oh, you hurt me, then I'm going to hurt you. And then you say, oh, you hurt me, then I'm going to hurt you back. And then I'm seeing your hurt back. It's like, oh, you're hurting me again, so I'm going to hurt you more. And this hurt cycle going to continue. And this hurt is going to go back and forth until one person gives up. And that's what patience is about. You're showing off who is more patient. In this relationship, you hurt me, I hurt you more. You hurt me, I hurt you more. It's going back and forth. It's just showing that there is some kind of show that, and there's booty. When it comes down to war or challenge, there's a reward behind it. Like, for example, the classic one, the very common one, is that the children. It's like, who gets to keep the children after divorce? So they try to trigger the other person so they instigate the divorce, or they lose the dowry, the after divorce dowry or something like that. So it's always there's something that they're trying to gain. That will keep them holding on and being more patient. But we don't need that patient. We don't need that kind of patient. We need the patient to resolve the conflict, not to get a personal gain from it. It's the gain. The focus of the gain is to gain that relationship back. So some people say, oh, patience, I'm not doing anything. I'm just being patient. What am I doing? Well, guess what? Being patient is an act. You are acting. It's a form of action by being patient, because it's not just not doing nothing. It's not like you're doing nothing. It's you are actually doing something. So throughout this journey of conflict, we need to seek Allah's help. We need to seek Allah's guidance. We need to seek Allah's wisdom. We need to have the courage from Him to continue, because we might fail the first time around, the second time around, the third time around, but we need to keep going. We need to ask Allah's help to give us steadfastness to the truth as we go through, and to be patient. So we be patient, because the answers to our prayer might not happen immediately, but we need to we need to keep that in mind. We need to always keep in mind seeking Allah's help, and try and continue to try until we are successful in resolving the conflict and maintaining the relationship. Here's a rule. Once in a while I give a rule in these kind of talks. There's a rule today as I mentioned here, it says patience is a form of action. Another rule is that it is easier to dissolve a conflict, a relationship. It is easier, or it's easy to resolve a relationship. You get upset with me, it's like, okay, fine, I don't want to see you, don't see me. Very easy, very simple. Separate. Done. Very easy to do that. But in the long term, is not joyful. Because every time I see you, I think, I don't want to see you. This in my heart is like, I remember you did something bad to me. So to save that relationship is hard. It's not easy. It's very challenging. But the reward is in abundance. The reward is huge. It's easy for a man and wife to divorce. Going through the divorce and the outcome of the divorce and how the children come to grow up and how they develop, it's a huge chaos. It's very, very chaotic, very unpleasant. But to make the decision of divorce can be done really quickly. That's it. It's separate. Very simple. Holding on to a relationship is very painful, but the reward is huge. Seeing your children to grow in a very safe environment, to see how you and your spouse are dealing with the conflicts. You're really teaching the children how to deal with conflicts. You're teaching them how to be successful parents, how to be successful spouses in their future. You're giving them an example. But if you separate, you're giving them an example is like, yeah, just walk away from it. It's better not to talk about it. Just let it go. It's qadr. I don't have anything to do with it. It's qadr. No, it's you. You are deciding for that. So the last verse for today is in relation to seeking guidance. So after we seek guidance, we get as we are going on a journey to get the rewards, we seek Allah's protection from shaitan. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if a thought or a whisper from shaitan, from Satan comes to you, then seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because as you go through this, we said that shaitan will always come to whisper things for you to do, to stand up for your manhood, to stand up for your kindness as a woman, kindness as a friend, for the things that you've given, the things that you've done. All these are whispers that shaitan is saying facts. He's not making things up, but he's letting you fight for it. Then you say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. It didn't go? Then what do? Say it again. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Didn't go? What do? Say it again. Didn't go? Make wudu. Pray 2 rak'ah. Whatever it takes. Read Quran. Read Ayat al-Kursi. It's guaranteed. The Prophet ﷺ told us about Ayat al-Kursi will make shaitan disappear. Run away. Okay, so this will help us to be what? To be focused on the strategy. Step number 1, to have the strategy. Strategy is what? Repel evil with good deeds. In the relationship. And this verse is talking about relationships specifically. Why do we seek protections? Because the journey is tough. The journey is tough. The journey is tough. I cannot say enough. The older the struggle, because sometimes you have people married for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and once you talk about it, oh, it's been like this for 10 years. It's like, Ya Allah, it's been like this for 15 years. Oh, since we were married. How long have you been married? 20 years. The longer the problem has been, the more difficult for it to be resolved, because there's so many things that you need to clear. So it might be tough. It might be easy but long. It might be tough and long. Okay? And therefore, if we are alone, we need the protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the guidance, to make us always focused on resolving that resolution, that conflict. And we always, ask for protection from the evil of some of the people that are around us also. It's not just shaitan. Sometimes ourselves, some ourselves putting some negative thoughts about influencing bad, that it would influence the relationship in a very bad way. People around us, like what the brother mentioned earlier, they need to be either brought in. You need to use hikmah. That's why we ask for hikmah. You need to rely on wisdom. Is it better to bring him into the conflict resolution, or is it better to have someone else to resolve that issue for you? You need to understand, but it needs to be addressed. You cannot just brush it away as like accept it. That's compromising. We don't want to compromise. So therefore we need to ask Allah's protection from the evil of the jinn and the people. Right? Because some people come up with ideas Satan himself didn't think about. What am I referring to? I'm giving you a very, very specific example here. The method of how the people of Quraysh decided how to kill the Prophet ﷺ. Satan himself didn't think about that. When the tribes, they said, we'll just have one man of each tribe to shoot him, to kill him as one man. Then Satan was like, wow, I didn't think of that. It was Abu Jahl who thought about that. That shows how evil Abu Jahl is. So that's an example that evil is not just, some people can be more evil than the devil himself. So it doesn't matter. They're Muslims or not Muslims. It doesn't matter. Evil is just a very, very bad thing. I'm not going to judge whether they're Muslims or not. I'm going to say that as a general statement. So we need to deal with fear. That's part of the journey. And I'm going to stop here. I'll continue more on that and the other examples of step number 2 and moving forward, inshallah. In the next talk, if I'm ever back here again in the near future, Allahu Alam. For now, I'll stop. If there's any questions or discussions or comments, more than happy to address it. Yeah, and we have some forms. Please, the center wants to get some feedback from you. So please fill them and bring them back. There is a box here. You can give them to the brother. Give us feedback on today's talk. Is it only about today's talk for now? This one is about today's talk or general? Just about today's talk, right? Yeah. Comments or questions? Oh, subhanallah. Yes.
Assalamualaikum. Can you elaborate a bit more on the evil eye?
The evil eye. It's a bit out of the topic, but I will talk about it if there are no questions about this topic. I'll give priority for questions about this topic, if you don't mind. May I? Jazakallah khair. Any questions or comments about this topic that we talked about today? Resolving conflicts and building relationship. Yes, sister.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. It's not on, brother. The microphone is not on. Oh, it's on? Okay.
What about when a girl rejects a marriage proposal from a guy, and then the guy is like telling the family of his to be cold to the girl? Does it count as a conflict as well?
Well, it's a conflict within himself. He's not accepting rejection. He's not accepting rejection. He has a problem inside him.
So the girl doesn't have to do anything about it, right?
No. I mean, the girl has the right to say, no, I don't want to marry this man. Islam has given her that right.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And if he doesn't like that, it's his problem. It's not much you can do. So you didn't cause a conflict to him. He just doesn't accept rejection, and that's different. That's not a conflict. Yeah. I'm sorry? It's absolutely an internal conflict for the other guy. Yeah. That's a very good point. I mean, sometimes we have rights, right? I mean, if somebody knocks on my door, I choose not to open. I have that right. I don't know if you guys know that. We have the right. We don't have to open the door, even if you don't have a reason. If that person has a problem with that, then it's his problem. I have that right. Allah gave me that right in the Quran. Why are you upset with me? He calls me. I look at him. It's like, end. I don't want to answer. Oh, you hung up on me. It's like, I didn't hang up on you. It's like, oh yeah, I called you, hang up on me. It's like, well, how did I do that? It's like I called, it was ringing and it stopped after 2 rings. Usually it takes 16 rings. I was like, oh, I was in a meeting, I couldn't answer. It's like, oh, that was so rude. I was like, why is it rude? Allah gives us that right, if I want to accept to talk to you or not. Maybe it's not a good time for me. Can you respect that? So he has a problem. He has that conflict. He has a conflict of rejecting, accepting rejection. Any other I love these kind of questions. Jazakallah khair. Any other questions or comments? I'd love that. Yeah, I would like us to focus on the topic.
But related back to the topic, which is conflict in life. It's a part of life, and it happens with many different people at different times. Sometimes it's ongoing, sometimes it's one-off. Is there a way of avoiding and protecting it? Are there like laws, or how can we defend ourselves from it? Every morning you wake
Very good
up,
question.
you wonder what conflict
Very good
I have
question.
with A, B, or C.
Very good
Is there
question.
something I can do
Yes.
preemptively?
Yes, well there's a dua. There's a dua. اللهم إني أعوذ بك. It's a long dua, but there's a أعوذ بك من أن أجهل أو يجهل علي. For me to say foul or to get upset or to be foul things, to say things bad to others, or others to be upset or say foul things to me. So there's a dua for that, and that's also in the same book. It's for free. I mean, I'm not trying to promote it, but it's really, inshallah, I get ajr for promoting it. But it's for free. We're not trying to make money out of it. So so there's dua for that. However, you cannot avoid conflicts. You cannot avoid conflicts. Conflicts happen. It's not something we do. It just happens, because that's part of dealing with people who are not the same as you. They're different people. But sometimes don't we have conflicts within ourselves, right? How many times we decide to do something like that and let's not do it? We disagree with ourselves. We change our minds with ourselves. So conflicts usually, if I say general rule, is it happens because of change. It happens because of change. That's generally speaking. Change of perception, change of vision, change of understanding, change of intention. Change. Something changed. That causes conflict. And change is the only thing that is constant. So you would expect conflicts to be constant. The thing is not about avoiding conflicts. The important here is to understand how to resolve conflicts effectively and fully, completely. That's the skill. Any other questions or comments? Jazakallah khair for bringing us back to the topic. Any other questions or comments?
I'm sorry. So I just one of the questions because I walked into the lecture today. I didn't expect this. So you mentioned that we did it all
Yeah.
last Sunday.
One last Sunday and one before Ramadan.
So this is
The same topic. Well, I'm trying. Yeah, it's a series, a few things. Yes. If you go to Al Khadim YouTube channel, yeah, it's on Al Khadim YouTube channel. Yes, just look for the. Well, it depends on how many questions and interactions I get through the class. I mean, I have like about 8 to 10 steps that we need to go through. But I'm not here. I'm not consistently here. I'm here when there is a chance for them to bring me in. So I don't have a consistent program yet. I'm trying to work something out with the different centers, inshallah. Yeah, inshallah. I already started. Would like to find a venue because I've seen a lot of positive, feedback. Alhamdulillah, jazakallah khair. Inshallah, I will as soon as I get that in place. Inshallah, we can announce it for a training like about conflict resolution. But if you go online on Al Khadim YouTube channel, you just search for conflict resolution. Or no, resolving conflict or and building relationships, something like that. Yeah, I don't know. Like there's 1, 2, and this is number 3. Yeah. Okay, we'll conclude with that. Jazakumullah khair. Subhanakallah bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Yeah, this is. This is our company,
Our-
International Parenting Consortium.
Ah, mashallah.
Stadium,
Okay.
perhaps.
Do you have a card or something?
Wallah, subhanallah.
Or check me or just
From a different business.
you're based in Malaysia or not?
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
I see you there. Sometimes I don't know.
So my wife and I, she's a doctor of psychology,
Well, that's the other side of it, right? Which
and
is like
I'm
at some
doing
point-
counseling.
Right, exactly.
I'm doing counseling, alhamdulillah, so it's helping. So this is my